Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Romantasy Readers Podcast. I'm Alley, and I am joined as always by my co-host Nicole, but I am also joined by a very special guest, friend of the podcast, and fellow Bryceriel, Megan, aka Romantasy Riot on Bookstagram. Hello, Megan.
Hi. Actually, I did just change my name to Megan Gad Reads because I was like, it's getting so confusing. But
Wait. So are you still Romantasy Riot, or are you
I was only that on Instagram, and so I was like on TikTok, I'm Megan Gad, and I was like, it seemed like confusing with multiple names, so I'm like, I'm just gonna stick with Megan Gad. I'll just add Reads.
Love it.
At the end.
Okay, well, scratch that. Welcome, Megan Gad Reads.
Thank you.
To the podcast. We are here today because it's now been about a week and a half-ish since the famous episode on Call Her Daddy podcast with SJM. And so we thought we would do another check-in, but bring someone along just to make the conversation more interesting and exciting. Before we hear Nicole and I's thoughts, Megan, what did you think of the episode? How are you feeling?
What was your take on the infamous Call Her Daddy episode?
I had so many feelings. My first feeling was, did you guys watch it live?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so hilarious. I don't know about you guys, but that ranch dressing ad took me out.
Oh my God.
I was like, God. I know that's not about Sarah, but I was like, this is lasting a very long time.
Okay, and the amount of times that she said ranch dressing, that's what I couldn't get over. It was like, I love my Kraft ranch dressing on the weekends. I love my Kraft ranch dressing here.
I hope that Sarah now in some way decides to throw ranch dressing into a book as a joke. It's like Cassian's sprayed some ranch dressing on his salad that day.
I know. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because it's now getting so memeified. Nicole and I recorded our last reactions video just the next day, barely even 24 hours. And I had seen maybe one or two posts about the ranch, but now it's everywhere and it's the best. I love, that's my favorite thing about just any kind of community, or any kind of fandom is the little inside jokes.
Yes.
And the ranch dressing joke was amazing. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm so sorry. Keep going. We had to really.
I'm glad that was the biggest takeaway and not the other trauma.
Yeah, it was a lot of feelings. I was in a little group chat outside of watching it live. I had to turn the comments from the live off because it was going nuts. So we were all reacting together, and for me, my biggest yes moment was her saying that Rhysand is not Josh. I'm I feel like I have to say that all the time in my comments or my videos, and I'm confirmed. Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like she's always confirmed that. She's always no. As a matter of fact, I think in one of her interviews, she actually referred to him being more like the House of Wind. She was if Josh was any character, he'd probably be the house that's delivering Nestor food and chocolate cake. And yeah, so Josh is not getting to be Rhysand at all.
Yeah.
Well, it was super fun to watch live. It's been fun to kind of take in everyone's reactions all this last week or so. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing today, is just touching base on new ideas, new thoughts that we've had since it came out.
Yeah.
I kind of want to let's start somewhere big and bold. I want to start with the Bloomsbury potential drama, because I think, just to toot Nicole and I's horn a little bit here, we posted we had a whole episode about this during the 10-year anniversary of ACOTAR. We posted an episode that's where's SJM? What's going on? And we were theorizing all the way back then that something is going down between her and Bloomsbury, her and her management team, that showing up to one of those giant books, completely unannounced, completely unplanned, Bloomsbury didn't know anything about it, and writing the quote, I was a wolf and when cornered, I bit back. I just think that was so strategic and interesting. There were so many things she could have written. She could have written Feyre, darling. She could have written There You Are. She could have written the things that are on her website, and she didn't.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts, Nicole and Megan, on this potential drama?
Oh, I agree. I remember that episode of yours, and I felt validated because I kind of had it in the back of my head, and then it must have been not long after we met or something, and I saw your post, and I was like, I'm listening to that right now. And I felt like after this interview, it's like, I mean, I know she didn't outright say it, but so many things that she said seemed to hint at that, yes, things are not going well between her and her publisher. And even I did write this because I rewatched today. At the very beginning, at the 1 minute 30-second mark, Alex says, like when giving her little intro about Sarah, she's like, "You've broken publishing records," and I'm like, and then she goes on to tell us those stories about being called back from maternity leave and like all of this stuff. So I just felt like it's very much like she's saying, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm."
Yeah. It has a real Taylor Swift feeling to it. I think we discussed just the level of silence we had over especially 2025, but even probably late 2024, where, okay, Sarah doesn't post a ton, but she was next level quiet. You were kind of like, what's going on? Like, either she's completely burnt out, she's not doing anything with her fans, which felt quite mean, because it was like, why are you not just giving us, like, we didn't mind if you send an update and say, hey, this is taking a while, it's a creative process, please be patient. We totally get it. We will 100% support you. But there was just nothing to the point that we started to go, is there a legal reason that she's not saying anything? There's a legal aspect here. And she is ultimately a very successful author. She is literally Bloomsbury's probably, like, they've got Harry Potter and they've got Sarah J. Maas. Like, they are their two biggest things. And I wouldn't be surprised if she is now deciding that she wants out of the contract and to go her own way, either to do her publishing independently, or to sign with someone that she feels meets like where she's at right now and gives her the freedom to be creative with her art.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, and like right away when she like briefly mentions Margot Robbie, and then Alex says, oh, like let's talk about like what's going on with the TV show. And Sarah says, a big part of my journey the last couple of years that maybe I will talk about sometime soon, kind of hinting to us that we're going to get this story, is getting all of the rights back. And she says, I have the rights back to everything now. She doesn't say I have the rights back to the TV show. She doesn't say I have, my movie rights back, or whatever. She says, I have the rights back to everything now. Which I think is her small way in the very beginning of letting us know, like, I control it all now. And that means that and that there's more of a story here. And we said this in our last episode, but she mentions this sort of story, this bigger story that needs to be told multiple times throughout the interview. And then the other thing that's been really interesting to me, and I think, Megan, you called this out in your post on Instagram about this, is she's not collabing on anything with Bloomsbury.
I think that's huge, like from a marketing standpoint, because and I didn't see anyone talking about it, but just specifically her, not just collaborating, but when she posted about the new releases, she made her own graphics and didn't even tag Bloomsbury. Where, like, for me, so I'm a business owner, and like the best thing that's happened for our marketing is the collaboration. So when our employees post, they collab with my business, and I don't even have to create a post. So the fact that Sarah J. Maas took out of her precious time to create her own graphics and make a completely separate post when she probably was invited to collab with Bloomsbury, she's like, no. Like,
and frankly, her posts are better.
Yeah.
Her graphics are more on point with like what you would see in Bookstagram. The way that Bloomsbury posted it, like, I don't know if you guys like, I don't know if you noticed this, but like that main post that they did where they have like the two books, the two books aren't sized the same. They're like a little bit off and they're not centered. And it like drives me nuts because like, as like an indie author, somebody who makes my own graphics, like you have to watch that kind of stuff. I'm like in the process now of like making graphics for like, now that I'll have two books out, and it's like, actually it's harder than you think to like make sure that they're the same size, that they're kind of at the same angle, get them centered and everything, and they're not in that Bloomsbury post. Which just goes to show you, like,
honestly, just truthfully, Bloomsbury has been doing a really shitty job of everything lately.
Everything.
Like
They're fumbling hard.
ACOTAR, 10-year anniversary, it was rubbish. It was such a letdown. It was just such a, like, probably the best thing they did was like make those giant ACOTAR books. Like, but
Yeah.
they're not hitting it at all. And it's like other smaller, independent kind of growing publishers, like who Rebecca Yarros is linked with and stuff, they're doing the most insanely good, like, special editions. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was the special editions that Bloomsbury released. It was like the straw that broke the camel back, because they were hideous. They were so bad.
They
The
were
all black,
amazing, honestly.
court
They're
edition.
lazy. So I don't know, and it feels like since this has been released, it's like Bloomsbury is just trying to like chase Sarah, like just like they're just trying to play catch up, and it's like, yep, we're still here, here. Yes, this is our 6 and 7. We've got Sarah with us, but it doesn't feel like they are collaborating in any way, shape, or form. It feels very much like Sarah's doing her thing, and then they're just kind of following along with whatever she does. And I wouldn't be surprised from here if her plan is this book is 3 books. The next book will probably be the Crescent City 4th book. She'll probably break that into 3 books. I think she had 6 books on her contract left to do. And I think she'll be like, yep, done, dusted, finished.
Mhm.
I even wonder, and I'd like to get your thoughts, if this is why this is called ACOTAR 6 and not ACOTAR 5. Kind of something that occurred to me, because often, I don't know about you guys, but everyone would talk about like, oh, it's ACOTAR 5 because, Frost and Starlight was a novella and that's only considered like a 0.5, so that's not a bona fide book. But I wonder if Sarah doing this has kind of gone, yep, it's being considered a full-blown book, then I'm one step closer to getting out of this contract. What do you think?
I could see that.
Yeah.
Is Frost and Starlight, was it like advertised as a 0.5? I never looked into that.
So this is what's really strange. I did, because I forever referred to it as a half, right? Because that's just the convention, that's the norm. And I looked it up, like around the time that like we were thinking that some like around the 10th-year anniversary, I think, because we were like, okay, we're gonna get ACOTAR 5 or ACOTAR 6, and I like made a post that was like, guys, it's ACOTAR 5. And it was on Goodreads as 0.5. And then like at one point in 2025, it was on Goodreads as 0.5 and then changed to 5.
Okay.
Or to 4 or whatever it was. So that's like a recent thing that changed, which makes me think like, either Sarah just got more control and just wanted it to be called book 4 because she's always kind of said that, or maybe the contract is written in a way where it says that like she has to finish the ACOTAR series and it has to be 7 books, and it doesn't say how many more she has to write or something like that. I'm not sure that that's how contracts get. I don't think that they're typically structured that way, but I don't know. That could be something that's there. But it is interesting. There was a change on Goodreads, like halfway through 2025, to change it from book 3.5 to book 4, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I was like noticing today is Bloomsbury hasn't pinned any of the like pre-order posts, which is pretty unusual for them. They don't have like the ACOTAR stuff pinned now. They don't have anything pinned right now. But like the freaking Crescent City stuff was pinned forever, like well after it even made sense to be pinned, I feel
They
like.
only depinned House of Flame and Shadow, like Sarah's release, just before Christmas, because that was when they finally did the update. They took it away and they put like Christmas special or whatever on. Before that, they literally had it pinned for almost 2 years, like really long time.
Yeah. So it's not, they don't have it pinned anymore. I'm kind of wondering, because the other option, like maybe she's not moving completely away from Bloomsbury, but maybe she's had some kind of rights that she gets back from Bloomsbury. Maybe she's had some kind of change in her management team, her editing team. I'm wondering if like things have been restructured to where, similar to how Taylor Swift has her contract with Republic Records, where Taylor is fully in control of every single artistic decision. She gets to do like whatever she wants. In fact, she didn't even tell her record label about Folklore and Evermore until like a couple months before they were going to come out. And then Republic Records, like Taylor has said multiple times, I have them do what they do best, which is distribution. They help me print things. They help me get them distributed. They help me with shipping logistics. That's what they do best. And that's all that they control. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of in the background, she's maybe not going to move away from Bloomsbury as a publisher, because when you think about the power of their distribution network, they're probably the biggest, one of the biggest in the world. But when it comes to artistic decisions, when it comes to the direction of the series, the direction of her work, they get no say anymore. They just get to say, we print it for you and we take a royalty as a part of printing it for you, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be very interesting to see what the next sort of 6 months is going to be like, and how much, whether Bloomsbury and Sarah now start to collab when they release like the titles and more about the release date, whether we're still going to feel that real disconnect like we do currently, or whether they're kind of going to work together from here on.
Yeah.
I think it's
if the title reveals and cover reveals are not like collabed, that's gonna be
that'll be a big red flag.
Yeah.
There are like whispers. I don't know if you guys have seen like the whispers on like Book Talk and Booksta that some people think that she might, like when she's finished with her contract, start her own publication house.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And it does kind of look like, just with some of the things she was saying, like at the end of the interview, she's talking about, she wants to do things differently. Why do I have to publish from A to B? Why can't I look at it differently? Why can't I print things differently? And she even talks about how they told her that her book was too big for glue to hold together. And I've seen a lot of discourse over that, because there's like Brandon Sanderson books that are like 1,400 pages or something. I've never read his books, but I'm like, I have seen them and they are very large. So there has to be printing presses that can print a book that large. So it just, all these little like hints that she kept dropping, like it sounded like my publisher is failing me. They are failing me here and here and here and here and here. And and when she gets to the end of that interview talking about like, I want to do things my way. She even says at one point, like, I'm in the driver, like I want to be in the driver's seat and I want to deliver things in the way I want to and tell my story the way I want to tell it. And it's like, where's that mean?
And she is in the driver's seat now. Like that's what she says. I'm now in the driver's seat. So I think there's
there. And she has enough success and money potentially behind her now. Like when you're a new and emerging author, you need a publishing house to take you on, and you have to follow all the rules and whatever they say to get your books out there, to have them released around the world and everything else. But now she is so big and famous. It's like Taylor Swift. The whole thing changes. You are literally your own enterprise. And seeing the conversations, and at one stage I really want to go into soon about that Margot Robbie coffee catch up, but she's definitely surrounding herself with these really successful women who are now taking control and ownership of what they're creating. And I would be very unsurprised if she said that she is going to be her own publishing house doing it all herself.
Yeah. Well, and Margot Robbie is who she's describes as a close friend, not just a business person that she knows, a close friend. Margot's production company that she founded herself with her husband is really known for taking work that is driven by women and letting them be in control of the art and not questioning them, and taking a risk on things and producing the things that a lot of traditional production houses would not produce or would want you to change. There's tons of great stories of Margot herself literally going to bat for the Barbie movie, for like what it needed to be with Mattel. Like Greta Gerwig tells a really fun story about how they wanted her to take this scene out of Barbie where, she's on a bench stop with an older woman, and, Greta was like, that's so important. And Margot is the reason that is still in the book or in the movie. And so I think that, she is surrounding herself with people who've done that. And the book space is ripe right now for somebody to capitalize on like the direct to consumer ability that you get in the book space. It's kind of actually shocking to me that someone like Sarah J. Maas hasn't done it yet. Brandon Sanderson has. In fact, he's very much involved in the publishing of his books, but nobody has done it really on like the Romantasy side.
I'm so happy that Sarah has ownership. I'm so glad that Disney, Hulu, came to an end because it sounded like they were trying to change it and they were trying to make it more PG. And I'm just so glad that she just went, nope, that is not what this is going to be. Taking all that back. She is like a Lord of the Rings fan. She wants that level of, if it's going to be a movie or a TV show, she wants it to be that level. And it looks like she wants to have full involvement to make sure that it, and she doesn't care if it takes years, doesn't care if this is still a few years off. As she said, she's really going back to the books being the main focus right now. But do you guys think that she's going to work with Margot Robbie potentially and her production company on movies or TV shows? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, how could you not? Literally, we just had Wuthering Heights. Like, I loved it. I bawled my eyes out. It was so freaking good. Barbie, Saltburn, like, they are killing it right now. If anyone could make it to where it needs, and that Margot Robbie adores these books, loves them just like we do. So she's actually got the passion there as well, that she'll just be like, yes, Sarah, we're going to work with you and we're just going to make this, like, we need the most amazingly gorgeous actors to play all these roles. There's like, Rhysand and Cassian and Azriel and I'm so excited.
Not just because they're friends, but because in my mind, that is like the best choice on the market for who could be the producer for anything fantasy. I mean, we have not yet, society, culture, whatever you want to say, I don't know that we've nailed fantasy adaptations yet. Like, I mean, the Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon stuff is probably the closest we've gotten with HBO. And even then, there have been things that have struggled,
Season 7 and 8 really fell away.
Yeah, Amazon tried with Rings of Power. It was beautiful, but the writing and the story was crap, in my opinion.
We've also never seen a fantasy storytelling from a woman author.
A woman, exactly.
So I think that could be part of
or women as the directors and as the running.
We have like True Blood on HBO. That was a female author, like, but that was vampires and it was in the vampire
been a while from now.
They've always been kind of B grade. Like, we've had like Vampire Academy, but it only lasted, I think, was it a movie or a season? I can't recall now, but like, it was really B grade. It was not that high level. Like, I think the ultimate is the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like, they were truly, like, they're timeless. Harry Potter maybe as well, timeless. So you want to make sure you're delivering it to that level, and you really need the absolute A class of Hollywood to bring it to that. And you need a really good budget. You need a lot of freedom. You need you need the right directors and stuff that have a really creative mindset to actually put that love and passion, blood, sweat, and tears into its creation. And perfect casting. Just casting.
Oh, it's going to be so hard.
To nail.
That's going to be so hard.
Like that's what I think killed the Amazon Lord of the Rings. I just detested the casting. Nearly everyone, I was like, hate it. And then everything falls away. As soon as you don't have that connection to the character, it's done. It's gone. Don't like them.
Well, and there's a lot of money to be had here. I mean, they can invest in it, and it sounds like Disney just wasn't going to invest in the way that it needed to be, and maybe was trying to approach it similar to ways that Netflix has approached it, like when they made Shadow and Bone or they made Discovery of Witches, like just making them like kind of B level type of shows. And that's really not the like commercial power that ACOTAR has. It has the commercial power of a Game of Thrones, of a Lord of the Rings.
And the reality is that ACOTAR, or even Throne of Glass, depending whichever one they decide to go with first, it's not going to be easy to make, because I do realize that there's some things that will be difficult to bring to the screen that won't come off as corny, or, that like works really well in the books, but when you put it in movie form or TV form, it will need a delicate touch to make it feel real and realistic. We've got bat wings on hot guys. Like, how do they wear their clothes? How do they take them off? What are the battle scenes going to look like? It's going to be, that's why
it's tough to not make it cheesy, for sure. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
so
expensive.
It's going to need
for sure. Okay, anything else on the Bloomsbury and TV show situation? Otherwise, I was going to maybe move us on to a different topic.
Try something else.
I kind of feel like we need to talk more about the Call Her Daddy podcast and more about thoughts about some of the things that Sarah divulged about different characters. Okay, can we just get the elephant in the room sorted out, please? Because Megan, I need to get your opinion. Okay, for the last week and a half, I have gone down the rabbit hole multiple times over the Bryce and Azriel comment. I've sat there and been like, nope, she's 100% lying. I showed it to my husband and he said, oh, that looks like that's probably the most confident question she answered. To which I was
really
like,
Okay.
I'm divorcing you tomorrow. Thank you very much. What is your take on it? What did you think about the rapid fire questions? Take us through it, Megan. What was your thoughts?
I have some thoughts that came to me actually today while rewatching. So when she was talking about mates, she made the very first thing she talks about when Alex is like, okay, tell us about mates. Like, what does this mean? And she's like, it's biological. It's a biological pairing.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce and Hunt are not a biological pairing. And she even, like, that's a huge part of them even calling each other mates, is she's like weirded out by it. She's like, it has a different meaning for Faye. And Hunt's like, oh, well, this is just what angels call each other. And she's like, it's like an awkward conversation. And she eventually decides to go along with it. But they are not, to me, they are not true mates because they're not a biological pairing. And Sarah, even in the interview, she said the only people she called true mates were Feyre and Rhysand and Nesta and Cassian. And I know people have feelings about those two. I have a few feelings myself. But I was like, Bryce and Hunt.
I know. I couldn't get over. I mean, now the big thing is she also didn't call out Rowan and Aelin, and I do not believe that means that Rowan and Aelin are not mates.
Right.
I just think
but that's a completed series. In my
that's
opinion.
a completed series.
So I'm like,
exactly.
And she was talking more about ACOTAR in that moment as well. So I think she was referring more to ACOTAR relationships.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to cut off quickly, Alley. I was because I've been trying to process everything, and there was a Gwynriel post just the other day shared, and it was going over these 2 paragraphs that Gwynriels love to point out to say that Gwynriel and Az are endgame. I kind of go, you've only got 2 paragraphs. Like, literally, we've got 20. Like, we have so much more evidence. But one of them was then comparing it to Bryce and Hunt, and Hunt going, I felt this is not verbatim. This is just this is what Hunt almost felt something that almost felt like a connection. And then Bryce says, we need reinforcements. Like this, where he's maybe feeling this emotional connection to her, and then Bryce turns around and says, we need reinforcements. So clearly whatever he was feeling, she was not feeling.
He forgets about him all the time.
All the time.
She has to be reminded in the after, hey, you got to go back to the angel. She's like, who?
Yeah,
I know.
Oh, that's right. Hunt, that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And here's we said this a little bit, but Nicole and I have really dived deep into this the last week. Assume for a moment, just take it out of your mind. Just assume and suspend disbelief that they are mates, that Bryce and Azriel are mates, they are endgame, and you are asked that question. What are your options? You can, and assume, right, that that's supposed to be this massive twist in your series. You have a couple of options. Option 1 is you can brush it off and be like, I guess you'll find out later, which only sort of
confirms.
Makes people
it half confirms. It half confirms.
Right? Confirms it. Or you can lie. That's it. You have no other options because you're not going to confirm it. You're not there's no world where she was like, yes, they're together.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
If she'd even said skip, instantly the internet would have gone into melt and say, oh my god, they are. And you've got to also remember, she has to, and she's very good at interviewing now. She's done it a lot, not like her 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She has to go, where are my audience right now? They've finished Hofast. That was a happily ever after for Bryce and Hunt. Where are they right now? And that's why I think she answered that way. She was like, no, because it's Bryce and Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Even has to think for a second.
But she even just body language in that question, she was looking around, she wasn't looking out, she was looking around, she wasn't looking at the camera, she felt uncomfortable in that moment. And talking about, you said, what's she gonna do? Give away her biggest twist or this big reveal or lie? She also has confirmed many times that she lies in interviews. She even confirmed in this interview that she lies, because when they were talking about Tamlin in the first book and people saying, oh, I got a tattoo of Tamlin's. I mean, in all those interviews for ACOTAR, she said that she knew where the story was going, but she was still saying, oh, Tamlin's Prince Charming and like love Tamlin. Like she straight up lied about that. So, and as she should have. Like it's an incomplete series. You cannot give away all your twists.
No.
And,
like it just isn't. None of the discourse that I ever see really wrestles with. The only people that wrestle with this are Bryceriels, of course, because it's convenient to us. But like, if somebody were to convince me of another sort of like future, they have to wrestle with the fact that Hunt is going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't understand how you name someone after Orion. You have the Oracle say, watch out for Bryce Quinlan. You double down on the fact that he was made for her, and then he dies in the end of the book and like isn't tethered to her. Like, that is foreshadowing. Like any sort of like additional theory, if I were gonna like believe in it, has to deal with the fact that Hunt is going to die, and they don't.
Look,
and Sarah said if Bryce and Hunt are both seer at the end.
She said that out.
100%.
And then this time she doesn't say that, probably because she knows that's way too much of a reveal.
But then
and she because it's Bryce and Hunt.
I swear to God, that interview, she half gave it away with the Hunt question, because Alex's first question was around Hunt. She's like, what? And she like hand here behind her neck, like clear. Like, I can guarantee if you had a lie detector on her in that moment, she would have like failed it epically. They would have said she is lying right now. So we know, I don't think anyone could doubt that her reaction suggests that something is going to go on with Hunt. We are not all like drama ahead. Then I also think, and this is obviously a theory, I can't put words into her mouth, but if I had an epic secret, like I was just watching one of her interviews from around the Queen of Shadows era, where she was talking about the book without trying to give anything away, and she did not bring up Rowan once. Like, not once did she talk about him. You would rehearse that like 50 times in front of the mirror, and you would think about, how do I answer that question if I get asked point blank? And I think she was a very quick, concise answer. It's because it's Bryce and Hunt. So I just think, wait. I just think wait, because every time I've started to now think, okay, maybe it's not going to happen. So what is going to happen? And then as I said, I watched this Bryceriel post the other day where they just kept referring to the same 2 paragraphs, but like 20 slides, and referring it to every single, mate's pair, including Bryce and Hunt. And I was just like, that's all you've got? Like, only 2 paragraphs? I'm like, we've got hand holding. We've got she landed at his feet. We've got an exasperated sigh. We had when
her power is more powerful.
It was 100% pure liquor. I can just go on and on. The hand holding through the prison. Like, he said, please, for the first time. Like, it's just, I have so many examples. And that's why there's just no way I can give up on this ship, because for me, it's still just too much evidence. If it's wrong, I'm gonna literally reach out to Sarah and be like, why did you write it like this? Yeah. Like, seriously. Like, why?
Answers.
And this is what I said to Nicole this week, and this is probably just fueling more delusion within myself and others, but I think there's something to this.
No, we're right, okay?
It is a good sign if in the next book, in book 6, the first one we get, Azriel straight away ends up in some kind of relationship with Elaine or Gwyn, because what that suggests to me is that he has a whole arc to go through. Mm-hmm. And do we really think that the person that he's with at the beginning is going to be the person that he is with at the end? I don't think so. So I'm just saying, if you are Bryceriel and we get to book 6, I'm sure I will say this like 80 million times between now and when the book comes out, do not be discouraged, because we still have at least 3 books that we know about in the ACOTAR world. Unless, of course, Azriel's love story just isn't going to be a thing. But I just don't
I doubt that.
I was actually talking to some friends this week about this, and I actually just started to talk about Azriel as a character, and that he is actually like a Selena turning into Aelin. He has only been accepting half of himself. He is half Illyrian, half
Just
something
like
else,
Bryce.
most likely Prince of Hell. Yes.
No, just like Bryce, also only accepting half of herself.
Yep. He has not explored that side of himself. He has closed that down. He has accepted his role in Prythian under Rhysand. We had that really pivotal moment when he was kind of wanting to get with Elaine, and then Rhysand forbids him from doing it. And you could tell it was a really heated, electric moment where Azriel was almost questioning, do I listen to Rhysand or do I not listen to him? And in that moment, he did, but I don't think he's going to keep doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if Azriel is stronger than Rhysand because he's got potentially Prince of Hell powers. And he started to open up about stuff in the caves with Bryce for the first time about his mother and things like that, things he'd never said. Nesta was really shocked because he'd never talked about it before. And I just think he's got a lot of growth journey to go, a lot of accepting who he really is. And he needs to do that with his mate. His mate is going to help that make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'd be really interesting to see a right one before the wrong one with a guy. She's never really done that.
No.
She's never really done that, and I think that'd be interesting. And so I actually think it's a good sign for us if in book 6 he ends up with Elaine or Gwen or something, because that means there's still same with Elaine, right? Like that means that Elaine will still have growth to go through and not be with Azriel. So
yeah. What do you think, Megan? Like, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I think it just has me thinking about how she was saying that the next point of view is tricky because it was like a story that surprised her, like a point of view that surprised her, and I'm like, well, maybe that is Azriel, which I would love to get his point of view. Like, I think there's a really big story there, and that kind of leads into some of my other crack theories, but
oh, you got to give us the crack theories. We're all for a good crack theory.
I know. I could talk about it for days, but like how you said that about him being possibly more powerful than Rhysand, I also could see that, and I have some thoughts about the siphons as well when it comes to that. But
well, tell us. Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
This doesn't have to be a super structured conversation.
So like a siphon by definition means like to take. And so why are they wearing these siphons? It seems to me that his power is being taken and going somewhere, because why would he call it a siphon and not an amplifier? It's not siphoning power from elsewhere, because they're like, oh, well, we are so powerful, him and Cassian, we're so powerful, we have more siphons than the other Illyrians. Why? How come you have to have more siphons? Where is your power going? Who is it going to? Is it going to Rhysand?
Is really interesting. Well, and let's not forget that the Illyrians were created by the Asteri. We get that confirmed in CC3.
Yeah.
Now, it could be going to Rhysand. Could also be going back to or just the concept of the siphons could have been because all Illyrians wear siphons. Mm-hmm. It's just that they need more. And like, what if that whole concept was like put into place so the Asteri could like actually steal their power from them?
Well, and they feed off of power and energy. Like that's what the Asteri feed off of. So what is feeding off of that power in Prythian if the Asteri are not there? It has to be going somewhere.
Right.
Someone is benefiting.
It's so interesting. Like, I think in my brain, I'd always imagined it a bit like X-Men, and the guy that shoots lasers out of his eyes, and it's like he wears the glasses to control it because otherwise it's a really overpowered. So I think like in my mind, that was kind of like what the siphons did, that they just kind of allowed control of the power. But you raise a really good point and then like,
why call it a siphon?
Because she's so intentional with her words. If it were an amplifier 100%. Or like the glasses, like a prism, like something like that, like that's the word she would have used. But she used siphon, and I think, me and my friend Morgan, we're like, are we just hyper fixating on this one word and we're like overthinking it? But I think it's very intentional.
Well, I think it's very relevant because I think when that really icky Bryson Hunt spy scene in Hofas, and I think it might have said that he was kind of siphoning her power, and I was like, that is
I'm pretty sure I need to go back.
Yes.
that
I keep telling
is
myself
not
I'm
a
going to go
good
back to
thing.
read that.
That's
to
not
remind myself
romantic.
I was
That
icky,
is
but I also
scary.
don't want to.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
is like she has used the word siphon properly in this
Right.
universe, so it's like she knows what a siphon is. So so I don't know. That's my
And where Cassian really only just has that siphon power, Azriel has more. He also has his shadows, so it's only controlling a part of his power, and then he's got all the shadows and everything as well. So there's and I think it's even said in a few moments that even Rhysand is scared of Azriel's power. I don't even think Rhysand knows just how much Azriel has. It's just that Azriel's always cared about people enough to not he hasn't wanted to take the lead. He's always just taken the step back and just sort of accepted where he is, and he hasn't explored it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's just like, I really do think that the next book is going to be Azriel's story. And it may seem at first like it's Elaine's story or something like that. But I think there's a way where like we can wrap up Elaine's story in a world where like the overarching arc is Azriel's story. Because if you really think about Azriel's power, assuming that the fandom is correct in that the Princes of Hell are the Vogue, which I think we're all pretty aligned on at this point, Azriel is, if we think that Azriel is part of the Princes of Hell, which a lot of people do, that means that he's half Vogue / Princes of Hell, half Illyrian, which are a tool or a creation of the Asteri, which ultimately means that Azriel himself is the embodiment of the two forces that have been battling one another across time and space, which is how I view sort of like the conflict here, that it's really Asteri versus Vogue, and these two forces have been kind of like fighting one another. And I kind of think I don't think it's good and evil. I think it's going to turn out that they're all bad, and our little host of characters is going to say we got to take them both down and stop whatever is going on. But that puts Azriel at the center of that conflict because he is half of both of them.
And it also puts Bryce at the center of the conflict.
At the center of it, because
she is the rightful queen of Prythian and Thea's heir. And
as well as
I don't
the queen
care
of the
what
Fae.
Gwynriel tells me that it's actually going to somehow be Gwyn by some weird convoluted way, because right now, with everything that's been said, she is Thea's heir, and Azriel is potentially
and has Celine's power.
There is a lot to unfold here. A lot.
I feel like with Gwen, for me, first of all, that was never even on my radar. My first time reading through, whenever I was like
me neither.
Coming across all these theories, I was like, Gwen? When did that? Who is thinking this? But to me, if that does happen with Gwen and Azriel, that is just so icky, stereotypical to me, because isn't Azriel the one who saved her out of her horrible situation? And I'm not saying that that's not a trope that people like. I'm sure it is. But when it comes to Sarah J. Maas and the things that she portrays through her writing, that doesn't kind of go with her, like, her matriarchal vibes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like the theories that Gwyn is actually evil. I actually find those to be quite fascinating.
I find those to be more interesting.
As like a bit of an underground spy. But even if that, look, I did like for a short time think it was going to be Gwyn. I'd picked up on the few Hofas, hadn't heard about Bryce Azriel yet, and I was like, oh yeah, but then I also didn't feel overly excited about it. It felt like closure. It just felt like, yep, she just has to agree to leave the priestesshood and be with Az. Happy days.
Which she loves being a priestess. Like, she's very open about loving what she does.
Yeah.
And
I
don't see a big epic story.
It doesn't matter what SJM has said, right? We are looking at the story that's been presented to us. The story that has been presented to us is bigger than Gwen. It just is. There's no world in my mind where we now have an ACOTAR world that has been influenced by an outside force ACOTAR, Prithian, their whole minds and their whole worlds have been expanded. There are 2 characters who potentially can world walk, right? Both Azriel and Bryce can potentially cross worlds and realms. Unless there's a whole lot of backstory about Gwen that we're going to find out, she's not big enough for the story.
No.
Like, she's, you know what I mean? The love interest, like, that's the thing about Sarah J. Maas, is she takes, like, the romantic love interest is a literary trope. The story that they're dealing with on the inside matches the story that they're dealing with on the outside. There's just not enough there for that romance to fit into this larger story that she's telling.
Gwen is part of Nesta's story. Gwen and Emery, that's Nesta's girlhood. And Sarah even talks about that, like what she was going through when she was in that dark place, and she was, very much writing herself into Nesta, and they got themselves out of their hole. And she even says, like, her girl friendships is what got her out of that. And that's where we're seeing Gwen and Emery come from. Like, I don't think they were dropped into the story to become a love interest of one of our main characters. You know what I mean? So it's like they're there to further Nesta's story, in my opinion.
Yeah. Look, I think there's a little bit of a connection for Azriel and Gwen. I think there's kind of, there's been a little bit of back and forth, but nothing in depth has been explored. It's really unclear whether, they kind of said, oh, now you're the ribbon because Gwen, once she gets her mind set on something, she doesn't stop doing it. But I always have seen, potentially the next story we could see, we know Sailor Moon has always been a big influence for Sarah, and you have the group of Sailor Moon girls. She has her like group with her. There's like 5 of them, and I'm seeing the potential for 5 badass women going to save the world. And I'm kind of hoping that we're going to get all our favorites all combined. I feel like we're going to have Bryce, Nesta, maybe Gwen, maybe Emery will be in them. Hopefully Elaine, Manon. I'm hoping that like it's going to be like, they're all going to bond together, and then they're going to go fight all these Asteri and Valg, and Azriel's going to come along and have a romance along the way, like Tuxedo Mask. It's like, that's kind of what I'm hoping. I also think I've just got to call this out from the interview, which I absolutely loved, and I rewatched it again just because I had to now confirming that Sarah loved K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
Loved it to the point of owning a vinyl, and she says, I am pre-gaming to Golden every day. Now, the whole story of K-pop Demon Hunters is like she kind of falls for a demon of hell, and he gets his soul back, and I love it. It's so good. What was your takes on Sarah dropping that?
Like, also to play off of that, so the love story from K-pop Demon Hunters, but the other soundtrack she said that she was listening to is Batman.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Batman. Who?
Batman.
Okay, and let me just really quickly say, I was really interested in that because, like, I know the K-pop Demon Hunters soundtrack, front to back.
Yeah.
I know everything. Never even seen that Batman movie. Didn't know the soundtrack. So I actually have been listening to it this last couple of days. Y'all, it is dark. It is dark and spooky. And I can say, just like in the tiny, tiny kind of world of my own kind of being an author and writing, I also write to a lot of music. And the music, I cannot write a scene if the music isn't like fitting the vibe. So and I think Sarah is the same way. She's really said that music is so important. She'll put music on to get her back into the headspace. It is dark and spooky and gothic, and it just makes me really excited because things are turning dark in this book if the Batman soundtrack is to be any kind
or
of
at least she's combining the two. She's going super dark and then golden,
which is
really
like
dark,
so
and then
Bryce
golden.
Coded also, like our pop princess club
she's
girl.
Kind of saying, she's like, I didn't necessarily write to K-pop Demon Hunters. I pre-gamed with K-pop Demon Hunters. K-pop Demon Hunters got me excited.
And
right,
so
maybe the K-pop Demon, and then she goes down and she gets into the dark Batman.
So could this be an Azriel prequel? Like, are we gonna get his backstory, do we think? Because wasn't he very much as a child kept in the dark, kind of
He was, like, kept in a
tortured.
prison.
Yeah, like
Yes, kind of tortured, exactly. I
okay.
know, it is interesting, and she has said that the story surprised her.
Yeah.
She is not it wasn't almost as if she didn't really know where to go with the ACOTAR series,
hmm
and the story
And
she
then it
needed to
hit
tell and the
her.
way that it unfolded really surprised her, and would surprise readers, so
Mm.
I would
Well,
be
when you say that it's so dark, I can't think of it being the POV of anyone but Azriel, because he is the one that's in the darkness, that lives in the darkness. I don't think
Yeah.
she's gonna be listening to that for Nesta, not for Bryce.
I have
The
one
only
other
one
guess though about the dark.
I do have yeah,
if
I
you
have
say
2
Bry
other
access, I'm gonna laugh.
No, but
Okay,
I would
go.
love that. Jurian, which is so unhinged, but
Oh!
I would love a Jurian point of view. Think about everything he saw while he was trapped in that ring. Like the man couldn't even blink.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she did say that, like, the King of High like, the one thing she kinda confirmed is that the King of Hybern's real name kinda matters.
Yes,
And
I've been
trapped in the
saying this
ring, he's
too.
gonna have a lot of access to the King of Hybern. That could be really interesting. I have always loved and I don't necessarily for me, like, I can love a theory and not think that it's true
Yeah,
or gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, just because I just like the fun of theorizing and I like the fun of like trying on different perspectives. I have always loved the theories that Elaine is gonna turn evil.
Me too.
Kind of I'm like,
It would
I'm
make her so
honestly
much more
more interested in
interesting.
an Elaine villain arc than in an Elaine like romance arc.
Yes, I
Also,
agree.
really like the idea of Moore turning into a villain. I
Yeah.
want Moore to be redeemed because I love Moore. So I would want Moore to be like, she kind of goes villainous and then she
Doing
finds
it
a way back.
because, like, it was, you know, she had no choice. Like, she
Yeah,
was being
exactly.
threatened
But
with, like, a family member dying or something.
Elaine can go be evil and like never be redeemed, and I'd be fine with
That
it.
would make
So
her so much more
that would be the
interesting.
other
But even,
darkness
like
that I could see. But I still think that like Azriel, go listen to that playlist and just like get yourself in the mind of like, I'm gonna write Azriel and I'm gonna be
it
an Azriel
certainly
POV.
it
Totally
certainly
works.
doesn't scream, Elaine vibes, does it?
Yeah.
Doesn't exactly scream Elaine's
No,
POV.
no, no.
Like, that would be, like, springtime, happy days. Elaine bothers me because I always just go back to Feyre's origin story, and I'm like, we know now why Nesta would not do anything or help Feyre to try and get food for the family. But I'm always like, what the fuck was Elaine doing? Like, you know, it's like she was also just like, la-di-da, I'm just ignoring the
Mhm.
problems of my world. Like, you know, which kind of makes me question her how genuine of a good person she is. And everyone's like, oh, she's so lovely. She's such a delicate flower. I would either like to see her become tougher and just be a bit more of a, you know, find her tougher side to her, or I would just love to find out that she's been a villain all this time and she's actually not a very nice person, which is often what is the case with these kind of characters. You
Mhm.
think they're so nice, they end up being the worst
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So
But I'm
I
into
was
very much.
rereading the first book, and there I was like, Elaine was one of the people I wanted to pay attention to everything, but she was one of the people I really wanted to pay attention to because I love that theory also, that like, what if she is evil or something happened to her to make her evil? And there are some very weird moments with Elaine, like that I didn't pick up on the first time around. Like even after Feyre comes back from the Spring Court and like Elaine's interactions like with their father, even Nesta is kind of like weirded out by them. And it kind of just makes me think of, so for me, Throne of Glass is baseline because as of right now, it is a completed series. I know she's hinted about coming back to it, but right now it's completed. So that's our baseline. So it makes me think of, well, what if Elaine is like a Maeve? And she has somehow inserted herself into this family, because I also don't think the Archerons were random. I think that there was a plan. I think that it always had to be them breaking this curse or being involved somehow. I think it would be a very compelling and interesting story, but I'm like, there's just like that little thing in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, what if she's like Maeved herself? Because again, that was two sisters, and Maeve made herself the third. She made an entire continent believe that she was part of this family. And so I'm like, that would be so interesting.
Doesn't she look different from Feyre
Yes.
and Nesta? Because Feyre and Nesta are both blonde, right?
And they have the same color eyes. And then people say Elaine has her father's eyes, which again, it's like, Does she?
Right. And she's a brunette, right? She has like
Darker
brown
hair, like a
darker
little
hair.
bit darker hair.
Yeah, yeah. I would be really interested in that. I think that would be
Sure.
really like, and like, I could see, some ancient
And
being sort of like kind of like going to pretending to be human, like inserting themselves, like,
mhm.
and just
Especially with the
biding their
kind
time.
of dark story that Sarah is possibly exploring, it would make it very, very interesting.
Mhm.
But I think even if we take away like our awesome Elena's evil theories, it's gonna be very complicated. Like she is like a seer in Hofas in Crescent City World. They are living in tanks and like exploring the various like she. It seems like it's a very hard life to have that kind of power. Like she's gonna probably need someone who is just going to love and care for her because she's going to be constantly having these visions and having times where she is out of control, whether that power is going to continue to grow and expand. I do think she may have an important role to play in prophesizing the future and where the danger comes from. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on, I guess, bringing it back to, okay, what do we know about for sure is going on with Elaine right now and her powers as a seer? Like, where do you foresee that going?
Well, she prophesied Cassian dying. She basically was like, "You're gonna die."
When? I don't remember that at all. I need to do a reread so bad. I don't remember anything.
I do. I've been holding off
I
until we
don't
got
have
the
the
I
exact
only
quote, but
remember
I
Bryce
remember
stuff.
there was like a situation where she was just like, I can't remember if it was to him or someone who said something about the future, and she's like, "Oh, he's like," it was basically like, "He's not gonna make it." Like that was.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I
But
like
also, I'm just so curious on where, I don't know, where she's gonna go. It made it seem like to me in the interview, because like she did avoid saying, like Alex point blank asked her, like, is she like rejecting the mating bond? And she did not answer. She skirted around it and she was like, well, Elaine has her own shit to figure out and blah blah blah. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we do see her and Lucian end up together. And honestly, I'd be pretty happy with that.
In my like heart of hearts, that's what I think is going to happen. Is I think she'll end
Yeah.
up with
Well,
Lucian.
when I just talked just then about the kind of caring nature she's going to need to look after her when if her power really ramps up. Lucian is a beautiful MMC of this world, and he would absolutely do that. We just need some forced proximity with them, looking after the spring court or something, because Tamlin's gone AWOL, and some forced proximity and some moments where he has to like save her and rescue her, and then I think they're going to be fine, and that mating bond's going to get accepted.
Mhm.
But
Or
I
maybe
think
broken first and then they somehow end up together. I'd be fine with that too. I
Yeah.
like that. I like
Yeah.
that whole journey. I like the idea of like she rejects it, they break it, and then she's like, oh crap, what did I do?
What did you think, Megan, about the questions that Alex asked? Like, a lot of us have come away and we're like, is Alex a Bryceriel? Like, there was some very Bryceriel coded questions, or certainly some very
Yeah.
deep. Like, what did you think? Were you surprised by the questions she asked?
Yes, I want to be like, girl, do you have a secret account? Like, are you are you watching our videos? Like, she's one of us. She's in it. Like, she didn't just do her research. Like, she's a fan. Like,
yeah.
Deep. Well, and
deep.
she
Like,
said at one point that like she got together with all of her girlfriends and like actually they all together came up with the questions, which tells me there's a Bryceriel in there somewhere for sure.
oh
Because
yeah.
like again, I think I said this last week, but like she could have just asked like about the ship wars generally, right? She could have been like, can you tell us who Azriel's mate is? Or can you tell us like, does Azriel have a mate? But she doesn't. She doesn't ask about it that way. She asks about it from the Bryceriel perspective, which I think is super interesting.
It makes me wonder one of two things. One is that she is a Brycerial shipper herself and just had to ask that question. Or two, that question was intentionally planted
so that Sarah
could shut it down,
yeah.
which is very, very questionable. I mean,
Yeah.
I think considering that Sarah looked so uncomfortable with the hunt question makes me think that she wasn't in the know, because I feel like she would have been more prepared if she had known that question was coming. But I don't know. I think
well, maybe she was prepared for the Bryceriel question and not the hunt question. because I do part of this whole interview, and I know there was a whole discourse about her even being on Call Her Daddy instead of like a bookish podcast, which I'm like, that was so she could control the questions. Like it was very strategic for so many reasons, but she had like there was a plan. There were approved questions, there were approved talk points, and I'm sure she had final say over the final edited version as well. So anything that was included in the final cut, I'm like, she's very aware of. And I'm not saying that she's like an amazing actor or something like that. Like obviously some things have to be off the cuff and feel very real. And I loved that she was so vulnerable with us. But I do think she knew ahead of time these questions, or at least she was prepared, like, hey, we're going to ask like the hard-hitting questions that everyone wants to know. But what I thought was funny is like what put her over the edge, because, okay, so in my mini notes, right after the Hunt and Bryce question and the Bryce and Azriel question, the very next question was about Maeve. And that was like almost her turning point, where she was just like so flustered. She was like, Alex, who do you just want my notebook? Like, should I just hand over my notebook? Yeah. So it was like the back to back to back of those. And it was almost like you're saying like, okay, maybe she wasn't as prepared for these questions, because she was like, okay, well, they said they were going to do bookish questions, but maybe she didn't realize that Alex was such a fan.
Yeah. And she was going to go deep, and she was probably like, oh, this is getting really, really close to like, there are questions I've prepared for, that I've like got my prepared answers, and then there's the ones that I don't.
Yeah. And I will say, I actually watched that whole section, and I felt a little bit different than you guys. I did not come away with this sense of her being genuinely surprised. The whole section felt acted to me. I didn't actually think that I thought that she was trying to act and doing a bad job of it. Like that's how I interpreted it. Almost like she had prepared it. To me, it felt like this forced nonchalance, this forced like, like the epitome of like the Taylor Swift surprise face, right? Which was this whole thing of like, Taylor would pretend like she was surprised and like everyone knew she wasn't, right? That's kind of how I actually interpreted the whole section.
I would when you consider what we've all just been talking about, the legal implications possibly going around for Sarah at the moment, and any non-disclosure agreements, anything else, I would be thinking Sarah would say, I'm coming on this podcast, but I want in advance every question you're going to ask me, and I'm going to change it. I'm going to like tell you yes or no. And the really interesting thing, right, since this happened, the Bryceriel groups have actually increased in size. We have more people than ever signing in to join these groups. So it's kind of that old, no publicity is bad publicity, or what is it, like all publicity is good publicity, whatever it is. But more people, the people that had never heard of it before have now just gone, wait, what? Like what? There's a Bryce
and then they look into it and they're like, oh wow, that actually
like let me find out more about that. So I kind of wonder if it's kind of a negative that's turned into a positive, because I was surprised personally that when I read Hofas, it was so blatant to me. I was clear as hell. When they're holding hands, I was like, oh my God. And then I got it a tiny bit early, and then I was then watching for everyone's reactions. I was just like waiting for oh my God, Bryce is Azriel's mate. And then only a few people did. And I was like, what was everyone else? Like, did I read the same book as everyone else? Or was I like, and then I'd only get the odd person that would reach out to me and go, oh my God, why are they holding hands in the cave? Why is Azriel doing this? And I'm like, because they're mates. Like, anyway, yeah. It's interesting that it is built more than it ever has been post this interview.
Yeah. I feel like she did play, what you're saying along the same lines of her like acting in that whole questions, I was very disappointed at how much she downplayed herself. Like it was like she was trying to be like the, oh, I'm just a girl, like attitude, where she was like, oh, I just looked up hot names and Feyre is a made-up name. No, it's not. Feyre is not a made-up name. That was a very intentional name. And then her saying things that like how Rhys just like appeared out of nowhere. He just like came out of nowhere. And I'm like, I mean, I'm sure there are aspects of the books that just happen, but like for her to downplay like how much research and like lore and mythology goes into her entire, first of all, she's built a universe, the Maasverse, like the amount of time that went into that. And I do believe, I can't remember where it was, there was an interview, and I don't think she talked about it in here, where she had talked about, she's like, she doesn't have like a, you know, a red string wall or anything. She has her notebooks, but she does have an editor that has like a, she calls it like her Bible. And this person remembers like exact lines. Like she'll be like, oh, I wrote this line, and she'll be like, oh, you wrote this exact line in this book. And so it's like, so sometimes those things do kind of happen, but it's like it was in the back of her head. So I'm like, I really was sad that she downplayed herself, because it wouldn't to me seem like bragging. I don't know if she was like afraid to sound bragging, but I also think she was trying to play into this like, I'm just a girl.
But I wonder if this is intentional to make us start to doubt like why she picks certain names. For example, we're obviously talking about Hunt Orion, and we're going, well, the connections to that is that Hunt is going to die. And maybe part of her trying to downplay, oh, it just like I just look up hot names, and you know, and that it kind of is trying to get us off the scent that the names have meanings and can often be an influence for what's going to happen to that character in the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
There has, of course, there's been like this interesting, I wasn't going to bring it up, and now I'm going to bring it up. This interesting, like, small side discourse that a lot of people felt like she came across as like a mean girl. I have really struggled to understand the mean girl part of it. But what I'm feeling like, maybe what people are reacting to, and they just aren't like totally hitting on what it is that put them off, is this like almost like forced, I don't want to say dumbing down, but a little bit of like of the world and what she's built and what she's done. And you know, people want her to sort of stand in her power and stand in who she is, and then she kind of didn't, and she sort of, it was like she was, and again, this can be intentional, right? Like people don't do episodes like Call Her Daddy unless they have an agenda. There's an agenda. Probably a lot of that agenda is to expand her audience, even though she's one of the biggest authors in the world, short of like, there's only a couple names on that list that are like bigger than her or as big as her. You know, there's always room to expand. And so I'm wondering if like she's, you know, there's just like a specific kind of persona of what she's trying to give off. And we have to keep in mind that for non-readers of the Maasverse, right, people who have not gotten into it yet, the primary discourse is, I have to read a 16-book series to read the next book.
Yeah.
Look,
and perhaps what she's trying to do is capture those people and make those people feel like it's not that serious.
yeah.
And then they'll read it and they'll realize that it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, I
Then they're
think you have to look at Sarah's growth over her journey as an author, watching her Queen of Shadows interview and how sort of small it was in comparison to the kind of interview she's doing now. And so let's be honest, Sarah has been through stuff. She has been through shit, and she's a mum now. You become a mama bear. And she's probably finally at a point where she's standing up for herself. And that's not about you being a mean girl or a Karen or anything else. But as you get older, you start to realize that if you don't stand up for yourself, people walk all over you, and they, you know, and you don't get any say, you don't get any control, and it doesn't benefit you. And you do realize that you need to stand up for your rights. You need to stand up for your family. You need to stand up for your readership. You need to, and I think Sarah is now, she's obviously coming into that power. She's a very successful author, and she's obviously had to be tough with certain decisions to make sure, I'm sure her work feels like her baby, and she wants it to be hers and done right. And I think that, look, I mean, I didn't see mean girl vibes at all, but I did see someone who I think is now going, I deserve to be here. I am successful, and I want these books to be a certain way. I want these movies to be a certain way, and this is what I'm doing now.
I feel like that makes me think of how she, Alex asked her, like, what boxes have you been put in that upset you? And the mean girl that's happening, like, it's just proving the box that she has been put in for so long. Again, an assertive woman who is making business decisions and working hard to get her way and becoming successful is a mean girl. You know what I mean? The only way I could see, when I heard people saying there was mean girl energy, I was like, the only thing that made me think of it is how, and it's so goofy when she was like, oh yeah, when I was in 7th grade, I was a cool girl. And it's like, oh, she was a cool girl. You know what I mean? And then she also, like, I didn't know this, maybe other people did, but I didn't know that she came from like money. Like, her mom is a judge in New York and her dad is a lawyer, and she went to school on the Upper East Side. And it's like, oh, okay. So maybe that just kind of broke people's perception of her a little bit. And instead of like realizing that, they're like, oh, she was giving off mean girl energy. And it's like, well, maybe she just wasn't what you perceived her to be.
Yeah. Well, and there is an element, I think, in this, in that, she, especially in this interview, was dressed very nice. Her makeup was done very well. Her hair was done very well.
Stunning.
She looked so
She
good.
looked incredible,
Good.
And, even acknowledged in the interview, right, that she is somebody who has struggled with her weight. And I think when a lot of fans met her, she looked a little bit different. And so I do think that, I'm trying to be really careful because I don't want to comment on people's bodies, but I think that there's a little bit of all of that at play potentially, where, they're seeing a much more traditionally beautiful, by mainstream standards, kind of version of her, talking with Alex Cooper, who also fits that, learning that she's coming from money, that she went to school on the Upper East Side, like all of these things. And they're just sort of reacting to that a little bit, right? And maybe they saw something else in her that I still think is there. You know what I mean? She also said that she was a cool girl running home, running down the street with Sailor Moon.
I know. I overheard people commenting about her comments about her mother-in-law, and they said that it was kind of mean. It was about the mother-in-law and her saying, "Is Rhysand Josh?" Now, I have heard Sarah talk about that story many times in other interviews where she's been able to kind of divulge. I actually think she's super close to Josh's mum. I think I think that close that she can have a joke like that. I bet her mother-in-law reads all her books front to back, but that's just a funny little story that she likes to share. I personally took it as I actually think she's really close to her mother-in-law, and there's actually a lot of love there, so much so that they can have a bit of a laugh at different aspects. I didn't pick up mean girl vibes whatsoever.
I also feel like part of it is, and this is maybe just, so I used to live in California also, and I know she doesn't anymore, but she does like, I noticed just the way she speaks, she's still got a little bit of that LA girl, like Valley girl voice, which is fine, like totally fine. So it's like maybe the combination of just the way she speaks and what she was talking about, it like gave people all of a sudden this like mean girl, because they're like, oh, she talks like a Kardashian, and it's like, no, that's just a lot of people talk out there. Like, I don't know.
Having a big ideation brain, that sometimes our brains are moving so fast with ideas that can I just point out the comments that were on the side during the Call Her Daddy? There was some talk about mean. There was someone in the comments that just kept going every all the time, and I'm just like, would someone please delete them from the chat, please? Because it was so mean. It was like, okay, I also say like a lot,
Me too. So I didn't even notice. And but someone in our little watch party was saying, they're like, I can't stand this because she keeps saying like all the time. I'm like, well, I'm having a good time. I don't even notice that I talk like that. So I don't know.
I can't not. I have to edit. Oh my God. I swear I didn't want to do that.
Same.
I have
It goes
to edit
into
out
overdrive.
messages. You know what I mean? You know that I am either texting you really fast and I'm busy if you see a like, or I'm just really comfortable with you and I don't care. Because what comes out of a text message is a lot of like, I'll read a text message back sometimes and be like, oh, I said like 7 times in a row. I'm so bad
More
about it.
excited and emotional or nervous I am, the more that like
Same.
is going to be said 100 times. I think we could call this for podcast like the like podcast, because I think we use it a fair bit too. But anyway, I just thought it was really mean. I don't care what
I
Sarah says
agree.
and
I
how
was
many
like,
times she says like. She can say it as many bloody times as she wants because her brain is amazing and she gives us amazing stories. So like away, Sarah. It's all good in my opinion.
Yeah. And I just want to add one more thing, kind of like what we've been talking about, but going back a little bit to what you were saying, Megan, about how she does sort of almost dampen down her role and her intelligence, or the way that she has researched things. And I do feel that is strategic. I bring everything back to Taylor Swift, but there's some interesting parallels here. It reminds me of the way that Taylor has talked about getting her master's back in public, in big public forums. You know, when she talks about it on the podcast with the New Heights podcast, or when she talked about it on the Seth Meyers like interview, or with Jimmy Fallon, you know, she made it sound very small. You know, she always made it sound like, it was really important to me, you know, and she's almost like dumbing down the business side of it and like what it is and what it means to her, because what she's trying to do is explain it to people who don't get it, who don't understand the business, and be relatable to them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that she can't be both. It doesn't mean that she's not this incredible businesswoman, one of the most successful businesswomen in the world, at the same time that she's making those incredible business decisions digestible for people who don't know anything about that. And that is a little bit of what I interpreted in some of her interactions, in some of the way that she's talking about various things, is her just trying to be relatable for this thing that actually isn't relatable to us. It's not relatable to build a multi-million-dollar universe.
Yeah. And Sarah is a master at making her books appeal to both audiences. You can just be a light reader that just wants to read about some hot winged guys and a romance in a fantasy world. You don't have to look at it too deeply and you get a great deal of enjoyment out of it. You can also be a theorizer, deep diver looking for the Easter eggs, and they're all there as well. And so it's like, it's kind of you can do both, and depending on what kind of reader you are, and she delivers both so insanely well. So she probably says that for the lighter readers to go, oh, okay, I'll get into this and try it and know it's a good little romance. But then
for the readers who are overwhelmed by the 16-book
the
series, I mean, that is the prevailing narrative outside of, for people who have not read it yet.
And like you said, the audience of Call Her Daddy, like she's talking to, I mean, a lot of us know Sarah that tuned in, but a lot of the Call Her Daddy listeners don't know who Sarah is. Maybe they haven't picked up a book in years, you know? Right. So you're right. She has to walk that line of like, how am I going to be relatable to these people who have no idea who I am? And how am I also going to give my diehard readers exactly what they want from me?
Yeah. And I think Crescent City is really her only series that it's kind of hard to enjoy as just a light reader, because it is a more complex world and a lot of people are like, whoa, there is a lot to understand here. So you do need to take that one with a bit more of a, you got to kind of reread it and understand it and get more of an understanding of the world.
And it's just different, especially if you started with either of the two stories, going from like a traditional fantasy to an urban fantasy. Like that's already complicated in and of itself. And then, you know, I love Crescent City. I'm a Crescent City girly. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of people that I talk to who love Crescent City are either fantasy readers, like pure, you know, they could care less if there's romance in it or not. They're fantasy readers, or they're 30 plus, like, not to like pinhole us, but like I feel like, you know, Bryce is she's still in her 20s, but she's an older female main character. I feel like a lot more of us relate to her.
Crescent City was the first Sarah J. Maas book I read Like,
Oh.
it was the one that, yeah, I
I know.
know.
Every time Nicole tells me that story,
Like,
I'm like,
it's
that is
such
just
a random
so
because
wild.
I hadn't read in years, and it was
Oh my
just at the
God.
front of the bookstore, and I looked at the blurb, and I went, "Oh, that sounds fun." And so I started with that. Had no idea. And then there's no actual spice scenes in Hofast 1. So, or like Crescent City 1. So I'm just like, "Oh, okay." Like, there's a bit of heat going on with Bryce and Hunt. And then I went to Throne of Glass, and I did ACOTAR last because I thought that was her extra series that wasn't very good. So I did them all backwards, but
Oh my
I
gosh.
definitely got a surprise when I realized that she does do spice quite thoroughly, and it was very interesting that the first book, Hunt and Bryce don't even hook up, like,
Yeah.
and that
No.
doesn't give you indications for starters.
Mhm.
Um, so Megan, did you have any other? I know you've got a heap of notes there. I don't want to make sure we
Oh
get through
gosh.
them so that
I
our
have a
listeners,
specific
you
thing I
have to
want to
tell
ask
us some of your
Megan.
biggest thoughts and like
Okay.
what some of your takeaways are.
I
I
don't
want
know.
to
Okay, you
I
asked
want
me.
to
Yeah.
ask specifically.
Okay.
Obviously, you are one of the biggest proponents of the Rhysand is evil theory. If people don't know this, Megan, and we have been saying for literally months that we need to bring Megan on to do like a deep dive on the Rhys is evil theory, because we did a deep dive on why he's not evil, and we really do want to like do service to both
Yes,
sides.
and some people got quite angry at us. They were like, "You did not go
Yes,
properly into
yeah,
the Rhysand is evil
yeah.
theory," and we were like, "Okay, we will bring Megan in
We
so
need to
she
get Megan on.
can
And I
give
will
it
say,
its full due diligence."
it's one of those theories that I really love. I love it in my heart of hearts. I don't know if I believe it, but I love
Yeah.
it. I love to imagine it, and I love to theorize about it because it's just fun. Where are you post Call Her Daddy episode on the theory?
I still think I'm onto something. So here's the thing. For a minute, I thought maybe he was the big bad. I don't think he is the big bad
Anymore.
but he is not good. And before like anyone like comes for you guys or me or whatever on
We
this,
don't care. Come
I
for us. That's engagement on our
love Rhysand. Like I want to make that clear. I love him. And if she doesn't go down the path of him being bad or like where I think she's going with him, he will be so boring to me. I feel like this makes him so much more dynamic. The only thing, it's so hard to talk about this theory because everyone wants to compare him and Tamlin and pit them against each other, where like my view personally is they are two sides of the same coin. And that doesn't mean that I want Feyre and Rhys to break up and her to get back with Tamlin. Like that's not what I want at all. Honestly, my perfect world would Feyre would kick them both out and like matriarchy, here we come. Like but I feel like she for me she validated my feelings on Rhysand because when she was talking about the pregnancy thing, right? And this is a very, very touchy subject for so many people. And I love that she was so vulnerable and told us her story. I actually really relate to her because I had an emergency C-section as well.
Same.
So I feel like I could understand where she was coming from. But at the very end, when she was talking about, you know, like Rhysand, she says Rhysand is entitled to his own shit and make his own mistakes. And, you know, he made a mistake like the ex-boyfriend. So she's already kind of making a comparison like, see, Rhysand is doing things that Tamlin also did. And there are actually a lot of instances, almost all of them, the mistakes that Tamlin makes that he gets condemned for, Rhysand does the same, but part of why I think we accept them is those first 3 books, we are in Feyre's point of view. And we have to keep in mind that we are living her experience. So we also fall in love with him. I also think there's a marketing aspect a little bit as like Tamlin was like the golden retriever, cinnamon roll, male main character. And then he did some fucked up shit where Rhys has always been the morally gray, bad character. So when he does the same stuff Tamlin does, it's not a surprise. So it's like there's these, you know, it's very
he's
hard.
a bit of a villain for you kind of character, which we love in Romantasy, where he's a villain and he'll burn the world. Like we know he would burn the world for Feyre and Nyx. Like he will be like, yeah, stuff the rest of the world where I'm burning it down.
Yeah, I think there's just it's not quite simple. And I do I feel like it was very hard for her to talk about the Tamlin and the redemption arc as well. So like while we're on that topic, I am not afraid of, but I feel like just from hearing her talk about it, hearing of like readers' stories and how they saw their abuser in Tamlin, and even her very close personal friend calling her ex Tamlin, I think that has skewed her own view of her character, and now she's afraid to continue forward. Um, Sensitively, I do think she wants to explore it because she didn't say no about a redemption arc. Although I don't think Tamlin needs a redemption arc per se. I feel like he's
already
not.
gotten it.
Yeah, he's
already
redeemed
had his
himself.
redemption. Yeah.
I think we need more of an explanation. But I also feel like if we're going to condemn Tamlin, Rhysand has to make up for all of his decisions. And what it sounded like, what she was saying is that Feyre and Rhysand are not in a good place, and she's going to let him have it. And I really hope that does happen, because otherwise it just, and this happens in real life all the time. Sorry, I feel like I'm getting serious, but it's kind of a sensitive thing to talk about. But it happens in real life where people will leave an abusive relationship, and the next one they get into is also abusive, but in a different way. And we are so focused on demonizing our past and our ex that we avoid the red flags in our current state. And I feel like that is very much what's happening with Rhysand. And I personally think it's brilliant writing because we see these things in real life. And it's like, well, where is this going to go now? Like, how is this, if they are true mates, if they are true love, what?
Well, I think the other thing, and this is one of the things I love about Sarah, is she explores really complicated personalities. She has many characters that are neither good nor bad. It's a lot about the choices they make and the repercussions to those choices. Right now, we are seeing, even if we kind of say Rhysand like passionately loves Feyre and his son, but he is acting out and he is now full of fear. He nearly lost her. That made him terrified. And now he's making very aggressive decisions. I would personally say he's emotionally compromised. Like he is emotionally compromised to the point that he'll probably put her and his son on above Prythian, above the Night Court. And I think Nesta has started to notice that. And I think Cassian is still, and Azriel are still kind of like, oh yeah, like it's Rhysand, we're on his side. He's the head of the Night Court. He's, the high, he's in charge. But it's Nesta that's starting to go, he's not doing a great job right now. Like, is he making good choices? He's making very emotional choices. He is not necessarily thinking about things from a calm perspective. He has changed. And I don't know if Rhysand has yet realized. I think that was a really interesting thing for me in Hofast because I thought the Rhysand and the Nesta conflict had resolved itself in Silver Flames with that ending. But then we get into Hofast and it's like, it has not resolved. Like Rhysand is still acting that way towards Nesta and is really awful really towards Bryce, except that he kind of gives her freedom to kind of go through the caves with Azriel and Nesta. But he's still very protective and he's very like, I don't trust you. You're not coming in my family. I'm like, yeah. So
I have a
it's
theory
very
on that.
Okay, all right.
So Nesta,
Tell us.
Yeah.
Nesta can't be glamored.
We know that. Yeah.
We know for a fact she cannot be glamored. I think she knows exactly who Rhysand is, and that's why he doesn't like her. So in my reread also, we were noticing that at the end of ACOTAR, like when she goes back from the Spring Court and, finds her family, she and Nesta are getting along the best they've ever gotten along. Like one of the last scenes we see them together is they're painting together. Like they are understanding each other. And even when Nesta tells her, like, don't come back, Feyre internally says, this is, excuse me, I would have thought she was being mean a while ago, but now that I understand her, I know it's out of love. But then when they turn Fae, Rhys is the one actually starting to demonize Nesta all over again and reminding Feyre, remember the shitty thing Nesta did to you? Remember the shitty thing she did? Remember when she said this and did this and did this and did this? And then Feyre is starting to demonize Nesta again when they were actually really good. So my super crack theory is that Rhysand has demodied Feyre, and us, being the reader in Feyre's point of view, we have also been demodied. Also, my opinion is that if they were true mates and he knew they were mates and like they were whatever, why would he forcibly get her into so many bargains? Not just that initial bargain. They are in numerous bargains together. We, again, baseline, Throne of Glass, never saw Aelin and Rowan do that. Aside from the one blood oath. But Rhys continues to get Feyre into these bargains with him. He continues to put her in these dangerous situations. He makes her go fetch her own engagement ring from the weaver. Like, and he's like, I don't know, she might live. Like, it's just, and I very much, for me, the whole pregnancy thing, I do not think he cared about Feyre surviving. I think he cared about that baby surviving. And something that was not on my radar until recently, one of my mutuals on TikTok, her name's Bex, she just pointed out that Feyre only had one Fae menstruation before she got pregnant.
She did get pregnant very, very fast.
Could you imagine, like, you get your period, say you're with your boyfriend, you get your period, and the very next time you're like, actually, you know what? Yeah, let's have a baby. After you had just told him, no, I want to enjoy our life together. We are eternal. Let's have a couple centuries together. And then all of a sudden, everything has changed when he like sends you to go see the weaver. She tells you this weird story, and then all of a sudden you come out of that and you're like, oh, actually maybe I do want to have a baby, because she told this story of like, oh, I wanted a piece of my husband if one of us died. But as far as we are aware from Feyre's point of view, they're in a death bargain together. So if one goes, the other goes. So why would you have a baby? If one of you dies, you both die, and now your baby has no parents. So none of it just makes sense. There's just all these little pieces that seem so small, but when you add them all up together, it's like, what are you planning?
Well, that's why I say that I feel like Rhysand is emotionally compromised. Like, and I don't think he should be the ruler of Prithian or even possibly the Night Court. And I think there's been these real moments, and it's made me. I love Cassian. Like, he's always been a favorite for me, and yet I felt very frustrated at him where he kept taking Rhysand's side over Nesta's. I was starting to get quite frustrated, saying, "You need to stick by your woman. Like, you need to stand up. Why are none of you standing up to Rhysand?" And it's like, and it's Bryce's mum, like a human that stands up to him and says, "Hey, pull your socks up. Please be nice. Like, you need to show us some respect," and which is like a whole nother thing I could go into about how much I love them. But I mean, I personally think that Sarah is paving the way for that. The better leaders are going to be Bryce, Nesta. The women are going to be better leaders, not the men.
Absolutely. And I think part of it, like you said, with him taking, or Cassian taking his side all the time, I think there's part of it is like, we have seen these bargains, right? And in the Night Court specifically, they take place as tattoos, where like, and I know Illyrians get tattoos in general, but it makes me question, because all three of them, all three of the Bat Boys are covered in tattoos. Who's to say that Rhys doesn't have Cassian and Azriel in some kind of bargain with him that almost acts as like a blood oath that we see in Throne of Glass? Like, maybe the bargains are like that here in this world.
Well, I thought it was very interesting, as I spoke to you earlier about that really heated exchange with Azriel and Rhysand over Elaine, and Rhysand telling him that he was not allowed to do it. He was forbidden to do it. And Azriel, it just felt like he really didn't want to go along with it, but he did.
Yeah, which feels very blood oathy, right? Like, like, if you're in a blood oath with someone, they tell you not to do something, or they tell you to do something, you absolutely have to, even if you don't want to.
Yeah. I think for sure in the next books we're going to see more of Rhysand not being the perfect hero, right? I think for sure, like, he is morally gray. He is introduced that way to us, right? And we just kind of forget because he's, Feyre's falling in love with him, that people have real issues with him that aren't just about what he did under the mountain, that stem well before that.
Yeah.
And so I think, and like, obviously the connections to Maeve, like, I don't even think you can deny them at this point. It's like, I think that's an obvious connection. They are related. Like, and so, which is interesting because it makes me wonder, like, how does that play into potentially Azriel being connected? If Maeve is a Vogue and is the Vogue are the princes of hell, and Azriel is part of the princes of hell and thus Vogue, like, how do those shared kind of ancestries like show up? And Maeve wasn't royal Vogue, though. She wasn't royal Vogue. She was just kind of pulled to marry one of them, and so that would actually mean that Azriel is a
but
higher,
she
like, order.
was very powerful.
She was.
I have a friend, I've mentioned her before, Morgan, and she is like, we've deemed her like the Maeve, like, archivist. Like, she knows so much about Maeve. But she pointed out, she was like, in a patriarchal world, you have 3 men going after you. Like, and she's, Maeve is downplayed on her power. 3 very powerful men want one woman. She's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Especially with her little camaraderie she has in control of.
Yeah. So speaking of the comparisons with Maeve and Rhysand, I did look it up because when she was talking about, like, oh, Rhysand just appeared, he came out of nowhere. We had just met Maeve in Heir of Fire, published in 2014. The very next year, ACOTAR was published. So Rhys did not come out of nowhere. I mean,
if he was just a random,
subconsciously,
maybe, but maybe he, like, the character himself, like, just initially came, and then she went and built him more. But, like, she gave him violet eyes from the beginning. She gave him the same exact descriptions of Maeve from the beginning. I think for sure, like, there's something there.
Yeah, she's had these characters planned for a long time.
The 3 Fae that were cornering Feyre that Rhys came up upon, they are Vogue. They're described as Vogue. They have black eyes. They all like, happiness was drained. Like, she knew something was wrong. It was all the same feelings that Elaine got when she first came upon a Vogue. So it's, they're very, I'm not saying that he is somehow like relation, like blood related to Maeve, but there is some kind of connection. There.
It's very, very interesting. All right, I want to, because we're not going to be able to talk for too much longer. I want to make sure we get through some of the important stuff. So do you have any theories about what you think ACOTAR 6 and ACOTAR 7 and even ACOTAR 8 are going to include? Do you have any ideas or even time periods as to what is your first take, Megan? What do you think is happening?
Gosh, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm just so hopeful for so many answers. I'm like, I want to know so many things.
What would be your best case scenario? Let's start with that. Like, best, what would be this? Like, oh my God, that would just be the best.
Well, obviously Bryceriel and like another crossover. Like, I want to see Bryce come back to Prythian. I want to see the rise of the Valkyrie. I want to see the takedown of the patriarchy. I want this, like, epic come to Jesus moment at Prythian, and I want no more high lords. Let's go high ladies. Like, yeah.
I am wondering, I really feel like I would love ACOTAR 6 to be in parallel with Hofas. I'm hoping that because in Hofas we don't know what any of the other characters were doing. I don't think it's necessary for us to know much about what happened from Silver Flame to Hofas. I don't know if that time period is as important. But I kind of want to be coming in around that time, finding out maybe just before Bryce landed there, what was going on for those guys, what was happening, where were these characters at, and then as is happening, that this is happening in parallel. I'm kind of really hoping that we're going to be able to almost read those books in tandem in the future. And like now Hofas will make so much more sense because we'll be like, oh, once you get to chapter 5, you flick over to ACOTAR 6 and then this happens. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the idea of another tandem read.
Yeah.
That like Crescent City 3 and ACOTAR 6 are like, in the future, they're tandem reads, and you like read them, at the same time, like people do with the Throne of Glass 5 and 6.
Yeah. And my dream would be that like the very last line of ACOTAR 6 is back in Azriel's POV, and he's just said please to Bryce, and she said like, I'm sorry, I'm going, and she's jumped into the portal, and then he's just like turned to Nesta devastated and just been like, she is my mate.
That was my mate.
She is my mate. And like the complications that would add, it would just be so much drama and just so like perfect for Azriel that he'd finally find his mate. She's got a mate back on some other planet. She's just left him. What does he do now? And I just think there's a really interesting story there, especially with the little times that Bryce does come back and there's like the smoke and the shadows coming over the mountain, and then she quickly jumps back, and like they have not crossed paths since that event. So I just really need Azriel to like, and that would explain so much of that Batman darkness. Like Azriel's always just been holding on by a thin thread, right? Like, just suffering, yearning in the background. What if that moment broke him, and now he is freaking angry, and he is like, I don't know, he's just villain turned on. Like, you've just pissed off a prince of hell. Like, what does that mean? Even the fact that she outsmarted him from a game perspective, like, he'd just be pissed and he'd want to get her back. Like, I just want to see him now jump into that pool of starlight in Spring Court and start jumping around different planets and stuff to try and find her. Yeah, but no big expectations though. No big expectations from me.
I will say I keep coming back to her post about them when she after the podcast, because she posts this 3 pictures. She posts the back side of her journal, whereas in the summer we had gotten the front side of her journal, which I think is interesting, right? It's like front and back, do 2 sides of something. And then you also get, in that same post, you get the same picture of the lodge in the summer that she posted in the summer when she finished the draft, and then you get a picture of the lodge in the winter. Same picture, same angle, same lodge, but 2 different seasons. And I feel like why post 2 pictures of the lodge where you wrote the book? You know what I mean? Like, there's something I think there's something there. I keep coming back to like back and front, 2 different sides of the same coin. I feel like there's going to be something there. So either ACOTAR 6 is now what happened in ACOTAR while things are going on with the Crescent City world, or we're going to get 2 POVs. I'm really loving this theory of if it is an Elaine book, it's kind of like you read the book, you think it's one potential future, and then you find out that was just a vision, and that the next book is a second potential future, or what actually happened, or something like that. But that's where I'm gonna have to do a ton of analyzing of the title when it comes out, but I keep coming back to the 2 sides of the same coin. And then the emojis. I will say, I have really been looking at the emojis a lot, and I cannot. There's a way to interpret every single one of those emojis as Bryceriel. Let's not she has 3 sets of double emojis. The first is a blue heart and a pink heart. It's like hot pink heart. Now, I know a lot of people think Elaine pink, but Bryce was wearing hot pink shoes. And that's a thing.
That's her thing.
And in the interview, she kicks her shoes off and she has bright pink nail polish on her toes. Now, we even joked about this in the Bryceriel chat because we always joke about how Hunt has a foot fetish and it's just totally gross. And we were kind of like, do you think like Sarah might just like somehow be like pretending to be someone else that's in our group chat because we joke about so much? But I thought it was very interesting. Firstly, that she took her shoes off at all, and then that she had the hot pink on, and it is not Elaine pink. It is hot pink, like how Bryce has a hot pink runners on through the whole of the cave. So I think it was a little hint. We've got blue on the fingers. We've got bright hot pink on the toes. I still think it's talking about our two.
And then you get a crescent moon and stars, which that is all like Crescent City Bryceriel coded. And then you get hot pink heart, music, hot pink heart. Again, the very last time we see them in the very last of the bonus chapters, Azriel is listening to her music. And I don't really associate, I guess you can associate music with Gwen for sure. So there's that. I don't really associate music with Elaine. And I don't associate Elaine with like a Crescent City and stars. So I think normally that intentional.
Yeah. Normally when I think of Elaine, I think of the light blue, like what she wears, like light blue, maybe white, like more priestessy. I have never really compared her to pink. Yeah. I definitely saw that, and I felt like it obviously I am programmed to see it as Bryceriel, but I still see Bryceriel all over it. Yeah. I really do.
She also got new tattoos. I don't know if you saw that. She got some. She got some refresh, but then she also got 2 crescents on either side of her wrist. Which, first of all, so cute. But also, I was like, why are we doing crescent moons when we're going down the ACOTAR path?
And there's one more thing I want to point out about the caption, because I like had this, like I literally was like literally like scarfing food down to prepare for this, and I was like, I'm gonna just look at that caption one more time, and I like read this and I was like, she says, I hope that this feels like coming home for all of you, like it did for me. Who is coming home? Bryce is coming home. Bryce is coming home. Like, I don't know. I just like, that was a really interesting turn of phrase that I can only in my mind associate with Bryce.
Well, I wonder if the POV that she says surprised her is Bryce, because Bryce is not from ACOTAR. Like, you know, and I don't know, she has certainly given us a lot of hints to suggest Bryce. What if it is, you know, I could see where
he doesn't come in that being a thing because of the like commercialization of it all, but she herself has said, like, I don't want to make my art to like please various, you know, things that the publishing industry wants. So I feel like all bets are off for sure.
I have like my dream, and I'm like, I feel like if Sarah is a Bryceriel, and if she has been planning this ship for such a long time, the fact that she kept talking prior to when she was writing this, she said, I was so excited to finally be writing these scenes I've been planning for so long, that there was definitely something being delivered in this next ACOTAR book that excited her, that actually made her want to run to her computer and start typing it out, because characters were mingling that she'd been waiting a really long time. Now, either that could be Elaine and Lucian, maybe it could be Gwen and Az, I doubt it. Or maybe it's Bryce and Azriel, and they're finally like, stuff is happening, or just the crossover is happening. She's definitely said that you need to have read all of Crescent City before reading this next book. She is quite explicitly so.
Did she say that? I was just about to ask. And I was thinking, I was like, oh man, I wish Alex would have like blatantly asked her that in the interview, because then I feel like that would be like a, you know.
If for no other reason that the characters, like let's say there is no going back to Crescent City or anything like that, the characters are just going to be, this has occurred, this intergalactic fae came here and has now gone back, and now Pegasus are coming out of Dust Court and all this drama's unfolding, and now we have to deal with it. That would be the minimum, that there's no further crossover, but it's happened and now it's created some drama for ACOTAR world. But I would like to think that there's so much more that's going to unfold here, because it has to be a big world. It has to be, because she has so many books planned going forward and 1,000 pages already just to give us. So
The only thing that makes me like, I'm like, I have no idea is because if we are going by like what they've released online for like page numbers for these next two books, that ACOTAR 6 is like what, only 400-ish something
About
page. Not that
400,
that's a small book, but compared to the rest of them and to 7, like it is almost novella size for her. So it's like, well, what is she fitting in this small story that's going to surprise us, but that we also need answers immediately in January? Like, what kind of cliffhanger are we going to get here? Like, or what
I bet
kind
it's
of
gonna
big
be a really
reveal
painful one, which
are
is
we
why she's
getting?
giving it.
Yeah, like it's either going to be a crazy cliffhanger or like some insane reveal.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be. I think so.
I think
I mean,
whatever
I
that
really
last
think that like it makes a lot of sense to me that it would be what happened, like the story of Bryce coming, but from the ACOTAR world perspective.
Yeah.
And like maybe we get cave scenes from Azriel's perspective, and I mean, you know, like, and then I mean, the cliffhanger is the same cliffhanger, which is Bryce leaves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and like what that is. So I think that makes a lot of sense. But who knows? I'm just really excited.
Who knows?
All right,
Well,
I
I
feel
have
like
a few.
we've been
Sorry,
sorry. I was
Ellie.
gonna say, so we've been talking for almost 2 hours. This is a really long podcast episode. I know this is gonna go forever. We do have a game to end on, but Nicole, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, I was going to talk about the game.
Okay. So have a fun game to end
we are
on.
aligned.
Yes.
Okay. And it kind of ties in nicely to this. And girls, feel free to add a few extra. I wanted to talk about, and you guys can answer about whether you think these are the most outlandish theories about what might happen in ACOTAR 6 and 7. Okay, there are variations here. Some of them could be like big things, and others could just be like little side things that just keep us entertained. So you can say how likely you think this is going to happen, likely or unlikely. Okay, first one is a Bryaxis point of view. Do you think we will find out or get a Bryaxis POV?
I don't think a POV, but I would love to know where she is.
Or some answers.
And how cool is it that she's a she? Like that.
I see.
Have you seen all the theories where people saying that they think she might be Keltane?
I'm
love
actually
that.
convinced. I love it. I'm actually
I love that as
when
well.
you look at the words used to describe them both, it's there. I'm actually 100% bought in on the theory that Bryaxis is Keltane.
I love that theory as well.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know why I knew she was a she. I was like, I thought it was in the book, but maybe I just felt her feminine rage, and I was like, yes, sis.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's a great. I'm just so glad Sarah did confirm that for us. It gives it so much more complexity to the character.
But Bryaxis POV, 1 out of 5, it's a 1. But
yeah,
like in terms of likelihood for me.
A House of Wind renovation where they're trying to renovate the house and the house is getting really angry, and so it keeps changing the renovations, and it's like they're opening up the bedroom door and it's turned into a broom cupboard, and like it is hating this renovation and it is getting really angry at them.
Love it. I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. Yeah, I'm here for it and I would love it. So like 5 out of 5 in terms of would I read that and love it? Absolutely. Do I think that's what's gonna happen? I feel like things are a little bit
I mean, it was like an idea, and now I was like, I actually really need that to happen because I would just love to see how angry the house would get and the rage the house would have on being told to change at all. It would not like it. Okay, this is a bit more of a serious one. That the next book is from 15,000 years ago. It's a prequel on Dust Court, and it's from Thea's POV.
I had this thought. I also was like, what could be very shocking is it could be like a major like lore prequel. Like it could be Thea. What if it's like Rhysand's sister? What if it's someone who's not currently around? I think that could be very likely. And I would love that.
Is important. Like is important. I could see how that's like critical to continue telling the rest of the story. And so I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. I don't know why I decided I wanted
even though it would
5, but
really hurt. Like
Yeah.
it'd really be painful. She'd be like, "Oh my god, we're still not getting our favorite characters. We're still not getting."
But that could also be a reason why she's like, I gotta give them the book in January.
Yeah, I gotta do
Like,
back
I
to back.
cannot just give them this and then make them wait 2 years to get the next thing.
Exactly. We'd be pissed.
So
Okay. Azriel getting his love story. Do you think we're gonna get it?
We
yeah,
better.
5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. It's happening. We're getting his love
We
story.
better.
Now, where it's going, only
In
Sarah knows.
saying that, I want Azriel's love story to be big. I don't just want it to be wrapped up in one little book. I want it to be complex and painful and part of his growth journey. I honestly, at least all these 3 books, if not going on to Twilight of the Gods, I want it to be epic and big and awesome. Worth it for all the pain he's going to go through. Okay, could a book be about Nyx being a naughty toddler who steals Azriel's dagger all the time and is getting naughty corners, and the whole book is really just around Nyx?
I'd hate that. I already have a toddler. I don't need to
Don't wanna read about it. Yeah.
I don't need to read about another one.
Yeah.
So I hope, like, if we're doing our scale 1, 0, I hope not at all.
Yeah. I'm not all that interested in it. I would be interested in, like, the future. You know what I mean? Like, Nyx is now, like, finding his own mate 500 years from now. But, and maybe I think, Nicole, you made, like, a really funny post where you were like, I feel like we're at the point where we're gonna find out that Bryce's mate is Nyx or something. Is that what you said?
like a Twilight, like
Twilight
a Jacob
thing, yeah.
Yes. So
But
disturbing.
that's a hard no for me. And I think the story's too big for that. So 1 out of 5 on if that's happening.
Will we get a Nesta POV going like through the caves, getting her perspective of all the events that have unfolded?
I don't necessarily think we'll get her POV like reliving like through Hofast, but I do definitely think we're gonna get more from her.
I don't think her story is over because we don't
No.
really know. We know that she gave her power back, but that, like, they leave a little kernel and we don't know what that means. And I think that kernel is critical. So, you know, we still have to figure out more about Nesta. So I think for sure there is Nesta POV. Yeah, I agree.
And she's still super powerful in Hofast. So it's like we've seen her after she's given
that
her
kernel
power
is
back.
powerful,
So it's like
for sure.
Yeah, she's not done. But I don't think we'll relive those scenes. It would just feel a little redundant. I mean, maybe we will,
Especially
but
from Nesta. I could see us reliving the scenes from Azriel's POV because then it's like we know, oh my god, like what's going on. But even then, I don't know. It doesn't seem like
it won't move the story forward.
Yeah. All right. Elaine and Lucian going to the Spring Court to repair it because Tamlin's gone AWOL. Enforced proximity, obviously. What's the likelihood?
I see that.
I
love the crack theory that Lucian is actually now the High Lord of the Spring Court, because he did the rite in place of Tamlin.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a high possibility that we will definitely see Lucian back in Spring Court. It would be very cool if Elaine went with, if she's not being evil.
We can't like forget about the dressers. Like the dresser drawers that Feyre was channeling some higher power while she painted. She painted the night sky for herself. She painted flames for Nesta. She painted flowers for Elaine. So there still is something about flowers and potentially spring in store for Elaine that we haven't seen. So I actually think I think that's pretty likely.
Yeah.
If it's like an Elaine story, which I'm not, I don't know.
Okay. Last one. All the girls realize that the boys are stupid and that they should just break up with all of them and then just have girl power and go and fight the evil bad and just live their life full matriarchy, like, girl power, save the world, and say, see you later, boys, we're going to In-N-Out Burger.
I'm for it.
I
don't think it'll happen, but I'm for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely here for it.
I would love that.
I have one. Okay, what do you think the likelihood is that it's gonna be a Moore book? and what she's been doing on the continent.
Ooh, that's like a 3 out of 5 for me, I think. Like, I think Moore is a character that I would say she's my number one suspect for being a villain or someone that's been turned because she's, you know, for various reasons. I'm very, very sus on Moore. And I think Eris probably has some information and knowledge there because he keeps saying it's Moore's story to tell. I think she'll be very important for these future books.
For someone whose power is the truth, whatever that means, and more, as SJM kind of hinted, she's been suspiciously absent
during all the
times
major
where having the truth would have been very helpful.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, if you go back to like the Rhys's, you know, potentially evil theory, he sent her away. There could be a reason for that. You know what I mean? I actually think it could be, I think there could very much be a more POV as book 6, because then it doesn't have to deal at all with what has happened in Crescent City.
Yeah.
Because she's away, she doesn't know what's happened.
And Sarah got asked this question and she said like the truth among other things.
Among other things.
Like, she kind of
what other things?
What other things? We don't know.
Okay, well, so you brought up Eris. What do you think the likelihood is that we get a Moore and or Eris point of view?
I don't know about his point of view. I feel like I don't know if you saw this week, but the German people that they came out and they said the different tropes. Mind you, as if you can put Sarah J. Maas into specific like tropes, you really can't. But one of them was like enemies to lovers, and it was like, who is an enemy at this point? Who has a potential to become a lover? Eris was really one of the only characters I could think of that's not liked a whole lot right now. Very morally grey, that has a story to tell and possibly a love story to still come. So I definitely think he may play an important part in the next books and possibly will have a love story. But I don't think that's with Moore, except that I think maybe Moore and him actually have a bond. I think they're actually mates, but this is a situation
not them like
where...
together, but like, do you think we'll get his side of the story? Because I don't
the
think
truth will be revealed.
Yeah. I think for sure there's a strong potential for a Moore POV. I don't know that there's a potential for an Eris POV, but I do think that is a mystery that has continued to linger that I think is important and could be incredibly important to whatever Moore is doing. So I think for sure in one of the 2 books, we're going to have an answer of what happened. That's what I will. That's my predictor.
Yeah.
So
POV is probably a 2 out of 5. Eris being important and his story unfolding is probably like a 4 or 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I think so. What about an unexpected villain? AKA Moore becomes a villain, Elaine becomes a villain, Rhys becomes a villain, Azriel becomes a villain, Eris becomes a villain. Any of them can become a villain, and it's unexpected.
Oh yeah, I think she said that there's going to be a betrayal. So 5 out of 5. Someone's betraying.
5 out of 5. It's going to be someone, and I love theorizing on who it's going to be.
I know, and I can really convince myself, and I can convince myself on every single one of those. I can convince myself it would be Moore, Elaine, Rhys, Azriel, Eris. It could be any of them.
Yep.
I love a rabbit hole, so I'll go down any of them.
I could see Nesta doing a portrayal. I could see her not necessarily becoming a villain, but like becoming a villain to the characters in ACOTAR.
Well, and I really love the theory of Azriel and that fracture of the relationship, and then people taking sides, and like Nesta will probably go to his side. I don't know what Cassian will do. Cassian's going to get really stuck in the middle there, and Nesta will not be impressed with him if he doesn't take her side. But I can see a fracture of this friend group completely breaking apart and people having to choose sides, and I could see a lot of drama.
Yeah.
All right, I have one last one, and then we can wrap up the episode. What do you guys think is the likelihood that we will see Throne of Glass characters at some point in the crossovers? Maybe not in book 6 or 7, but at some point in the crossovers. Do you think it's a closed universe at this point?
No, I think 5, because she did in the interview say she loves them so much. She talks about them all the time. She made it seem very much like we will see them again. Not that she'll open the story back up, but maybe we'll just at least see them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I 100% think we're going to see them, whether it's in 5, 6, or 7 or beyond, definitely. I think there are still a few characters there that aren't overly closed off. You've got Manon. She really shot around that question, saying that Manon's in therapy. I also I like Fenris, because Fenris, there's like a real connection to that name of Ragnarok, and obviously with theories that Ragnarok's going to occur with Crescent City, I would love to see Fenris come back into it. I don't know if it will be Aelin per se. I'd love to see her. That'd be awesome. But I don't know whether her her story's really closed. But I definitely think we might see some of those side characters. I'd like to say 5 out of 5. I'm really hoping that we will get some of those characters come back.
Mm-hmm.
I think it won't happen in 6 or 7. I think she's still has to like. I think that would just be a lot more to introduce right now. And when like the predominant like concern is that people won't read because they think they have to read everything in order.
And I
like,
think
that just like adds fuel to that kind of.
I really think that could be part of the Twilight of the Gods. Like there's going to be Twilight of the Gods that would be going into that universe. So it might not be the ACOTARs. It might be beyond that.
I think we'll see it more likely in Crescent City than we would.
I think so too. I agree with that.
Yeah, because I think so, and this is just like, I'm gonna drop this and then at the end of the episode, but I think Brannon, like Lydia's Brannon, is Brannon. Like,
oh, not just named after.
I think we're in like a very insane time loop, and it ties all of so anyway,
I like that more than the idea that I have never really bought the argument that Throne of Glass is in the past.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think it's the past.
I've never bought that, so I like that.
And it's either they're so intertwined that they can't exist without the other, so you can't really pinpoint what the past is. But like, if I were to have to choose what the past is, my personal opinion is actually that Crescent City is the past.
I agree. I completely agree. All right. I think with that, we're just going to mic drop that out. You are still listening. 2 hours.
I've literally got my daughter ringing me going, Mum, I need to get picked up from work. And it's like, just wait, I'm finishing up a podcast. I'll see you in a minute, honey. I've only got for 2 hours.
Work some overtime. Work some overtime until Mom can get there. Well, thank you so much if you are still listening. Thank you so much to Megan. You can find her at Megan Gad Reads on Instagram and Megan Gad on TikTok. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Doing lots of deep dives. I am sure we're going to have her back on the podcast because there's so many theories that we need to deep dive to get us prepared and prepped for October 27th, which we are all eagerly counting down for. Let us know, comment on any of the comments, or let us know on Instagram or TikTok what theories are most important to you. Where do you want us to deep dive in some of our next episodes so that we can get you prepared and ready for that October 27th deadline.
We're finally going to do the rereads. It's finally going to happen.
Got
dates. I have permission. I can start now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Megan, for joining us.
Thank you for having me so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.